start the India Energy Week 2025.
साल 2030 तक हम 500 गीगावाट रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी कैपेसिटी ऐड करना चाहते हैं।
There has never been a shortage of energy in the world. I mean, not now. There is more than enough energy available.
It's important to understand that energy poverty exists in the world.
Make this transition to clean energy as fast as we can.
Hello and welcome to Commodity Champions. I'm Manisha Gupta and this is a special edition that we bring you from India Energy Week, the third edition, this time happening in Delhi. And we do understand that there are 70,000 people thronging in during this time. There are 700 plus more exhibitors here. There are 20 countries, ministerial ministers who are taking part into this. And we also do understand that there are 10 countries which have put out their exhibition centers here. So it only gets bigger and better. The more important thing is that India Energy Week now is the second largest conglomeration of energy experts coming together in the world. It also is the beginning of the calendar year, so even more important on where the conversation goes from here. As we talk about India and energy collaboration, energy resilience, transition in sense of energy as well, the one word that continues to reign high, of course, is AI. That is something that has led in various sectors, and AI and energy is something that we have been talking in the same breath as well for some time now. Who best to talk about on that is Mr. Atul Arya. He joins us from S&P Global Commodities. He's Chief Energy Strategist. Atul, hi, thank you so much for joining in. Let's start with AI first. And we've been talking to Minister Puri for the last week and 1 month, building up to India Energy Week. And AI clearly has been a subject that has been a lot talked about. What's your sense on where India stands vis-a-vis the world?
So, well, first of all, Manisha, it's great to be back here in Delhi and talking with you. I think AI is kind of the overarching theme everywhere in the world. You know, if you were in Davos earlier this year, you're going to our event CERAWeek in March, it's going to be AI all the time. So where does AI stand globally? And then I come to India. See, globally, the way I look at AI is in two dimensions. AI for energy and energy for AI. Energy for AI is the big sucking sound, as they say, because it needs so much energy, and that's where they're building all these data centers, mostly in the US, mostly to train the models. Where the big opportunity will be, say, for India, will be actually in using those models for energy for AI. And you know, the AI for energy, I should say. And that's where we have lots of opportunities. And I will keep it very simple and say there is optimization and there is innovation. Optimizing the current energy system and innovating for the future. And both are moving very, very fast.
Talking slightly more about India then, Atul, and as you said, a lot of energy is required when you make AI and especially those data centers. Where do you see India stand in that? And while we speak about so many deadlines and time frames, where do you see this one stand?
Yeah, so I think India, if I were to advise to the minister and to the government, I would say focus more on the application side, because the models will get trained around the world and the models will become available to the companies and the businesses in India. And I'll give you a couple of examples of where India has big opportunities. So, you know, we know that India is already importing a lot of oil. A huge percentage of oil comes, imported oil.
Yes.
Can we apply AI in India to improve the recovery factors from its fields, or improve the efficiency of its operations, or reduce emissions from its operations? All of those things companies are already doing, and there is even a lot more opportunity. And the reason AI is game changer is it can process huge amounts of data and come up with solutions which we as human beings just cannot fathom how quickly that can happen.
So you talked about US, and where else do you see major investments when it comes to AI within the energy sector coming in from?
So around the world, actually, I'll give you a couple of other examples. In Europe, the biggest opportunities in Europe have been focused more on the power side, because one of the other things people are realizing is that there's all this talk of building lots of transmission lines. I think even in India, as you connect more renewables, you need more transmission. But how about what we call repowering the transmission lines which we have today? And that can be done with sophisticated modeling using AI. So you same transmission line, more electricity will go through them. So that's what Europe is doing. Europe is also doing designing of renewable system where weather is a big factor. You need to know what's going to happen to weather, so how much wind or solar electricity I'm going to produce, and that's also what they're doing as a modeling. And I think India can do all of that. And for example, not just for the power side, but also say if you're a farmer in India, you can use AI knowledge to have better farming practices. So I think the possibilities are endless. I think one other advantage India has, because India has so many talented young people who know how to do software, who know how to do applications. That's where India has a bigger opportunity, not necessarily in building big data centers, that everybody can do.
Okay. Atul, the other thing that we talk about is energy transition, and that is really theme at India Energy Week this time around as well. With the new US president now coming in, fossil fuels are back up, energy transition also continues. Do you think a balance would be created going forward?
Yeah, I think what has happened is that what I would call is we are going through a more pragmatic approach. And the term we use, which we wrote about last year, was called multi-dimensional transition, and which is what is happening now. So the key is energy for economic growth, and you will hear this more and more. We have a new Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright, coming in the U.S., and his whole focus is on energy access, energy poverty. Interesting for a U.S. administrator to say that, but the idea is, let's bring energy and help the globe grow. And even the minister today talked about it, Minister Puri, about economic growth and use of energy. So I think we're going to see that focus and more pragmatic approach. It doesn't mean climate change or transition is going to go away, but there will be a realistic approach. By the way, the other thing to keep in mind is that transition has been quite difficult. If you just look at some of the targets, for example, we have in US or in Europe or even in India, green hydrogen. Green hydrogen is really having big challenges in terms of getting the cost down, having the customer. So I think it's going to be a more balanced approach. Fossil fuels will continue to go on, but so will be the renewables.
Oh, clearly, that's the kind of statement that we've heard from various Middle East countries as well, that the fossil fuels for next foreseeable future, which is a couple of decades, is not going anywhere. But in the meantime, and as we talk about energy transition, whether it's about nuclear, which is something that is being talked about so much right now, hydrogen, as you said, and gas, and then a lot of biofuels as well. So while there's investment everywhere, and everywhere people are looking at more cost efficiency here, where do you see a better innovation technology come in?
Yeah, so I think my way I think about this, there are technologies which are what I call bankable today. And in India, there are a number of technologies which are bankable. Solar PV, onshore wind, and also many parts of biofuels value chain are all bankable, meaning you don't need a lot of subsidy or you need some incentives to get it going. But other technologies, particularly hydrogen of all kinds, carbon capture and sequestration, those are really not bankable. They require large subsidies. So in India, there are some projects particularly on CCS and also on hydrogen. I think they're going to take a longer time. And if I'm a private investor, I want something where I can get a return. And these things are, even with incentives, the returns are not very high. So I think we will see a gradual shift. Electric vehicles and storage is where I think is the next big shift happening. More EVs, I see them just being in Delhi for a day, I can see that. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And also we're going to see a lot more of stationary storage to help solar and wind become, more continuous for a backup power.
Atul, also the PM in his video speech did talk about on inviting investment rather on battery and storage. Yes. How do you look at that?
I think there is, what I think the government will have to do here is think about the entire value chain. Just take the battery value chain. There are a lot of critical minerals which are not in India, right? So India will have to build the relationships perhaps with countries in Africa or in Latin America to have those minerals come in, and then India can become the processing hub. India has such a huge demand for them. So we heard, the Prime Minister talk about the growth in the PV manufacturing, solar PV. I think the same thing can happen with batteries, but it's going to be a bit more challenging because the raw material for solar PV is very simple. For batteries, you need a lot more minerals than just silicon. So that's where I think we will see. But again, big opportunity for India. And investors will come because it's a huge market. That's what they're looking at.
Absolutely. Atul, this is the first conversation in 2025 in sense of such a huge platform on energy and various aspects of energy. Where do you see this year go ahead from here? Because we've started this year with tariffs and sanctions and oil price is very volatile. currencies as well moving in either directions. So what is it that you would want to watch out for?
I think it's going to be a very bumpy road in my view. I mean, we normally, when we talk about the markets. And just look at the oil market. You know, I feel it's like a calm before the storm, because there is already the talk about sanctions against Iran. That would be 1 million barrels out of the market like that. Then, of course, there is more production from the U.S., drill, baby, drill. But our view is that's going to be a lot more because the U.S. is fairly well, you know, producing as much as it can. And then, of course, the OPEC Plus, which wants to increase its production. And, of course, President Trump is talking about lowering the prices. So there are all these forces. Nobody knows where they're going to go. And as you say, if there is tariffs on energy, like China just put in tariffs on energy from the U.S., that's going to have another imbalancing, you know, really turbulent impact on the market. So it's going to be a very bumpy road. And we will all be watching what happens.
Oh, absolutely. Atul Arya, thank you as always for joining in, throwing insights on all of those aspects in energy there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manisha, for having me.